Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out. Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary tactics of special and specialized forces in World War II that helped shape the outcome of the greatest conflict in modern history. I'm your host, Michael Wires, and as always, we're here to uncover the hidden stories behind the daring exploits of these remarkable units. In our previous 5-part series, we followed the Provisional Ranger Group through the chaos of D-Day, from the storming of Omaha Beach to the dramatic assault and relief of Pointe du Hoc. But the story does not end there. This bonus episode continues the journey, taking us beyond the beaches into the bitter fighting that follows. Here, we trace the Rangers of the 2nd and 5th Battalions as they push inland from Pointe du Hoc and Omaha Beach towards Grand Camp, Maisy, and Osmanville. The episode explores the final assaults on the Maisy battery, the capture of hundreds of German prisoners, and the destruction of key coastal gun positions that once threatened the Allied beachhead. It also reflects on the human cost, the courage, the sacrifice, and the relentless determination of the men who lived by the motto, "Rangers lead the way." This special bonus chapter stands as the epilogue to the Normandy campaign of the Provisional Ranger Group, the closing act in the story of the men who scaled the cliffs, stormed the defenses, and helped secure freedom's first stronghold in Europe. So let's start at the beginning. Around midday, on June 8, 1944, the relief of Pointe du Hoc is complete. The remainder of the 2nd Ranger Battalion links up Force A at the point. The battalion has been delayed near Saint-Pierre-du-Mont during the fighting alongside the 116th Infantry Regiment, 29th Infantry Division. B Company of the 2nd Ranger Battalion receives orders to sweep eastward along the cliffs from Pointe du Hoc to Pointe de la Percée. The area is already being cleared by Army Air Force's engineers preparing emergency landing strip A1. Most German positions are abandoned. The Rangers capture several prisoners without loss and return to the point once their sweep is complete. Over the next 4 hours, the battalion reorganizes. Intelligence personnel search the burnt-out German observation post at Pointe du Hoc. They recover a large quantity of material, including the German Naval Pennant Code. This is quickly transmitted to the command ship USS Ancon, lying offshore. Once the position is fully secured, the 4 companies of the 5th Ranger Battalion under Major Max Schneider begin to regroup. 1 platoon from Company A and another from Company F are already at the point. These elements must be rejoined with their parent units. The process is slow and difficult due to heavy casualties suffered during the landings and subsequent fighting. Further west, new objectives are set. The 116th Regimental Combat Team, the 5th Ranger Battalion, and the tanks of the 743rd Tank Battalion are ordered to continue their advance. Their next targets are Grand Camp Les Bains, then Isigny, before pushing onward to link up with forces from Utah Beach. The approach to Grand Camp Les Bains presents a serious challenge. The road runs through a narrow valley bordered by flooded fields. German strongpoints on higher ground west of the valley command the approaches with clear and deadly fields of fire. After reorganization, Major Max Schneider orders Company D to reinforce Companies B and E. He then instructs Major Richard Sullivan to move forward with 3 companies to join Lieutenant Colonel Metcalf and the 1st Battalion of the 116th Infantry Regiment. This unit now acts as the rear guard of the 116th Regimental Combat Team. It remains uncertain whether Schneider stays at Pointe du Hoc with Lieutenant Colonel Rudder or moves forward to join the companies under his command. When the Rangers reach the sluice gates, their scouts come under fire from the far side of the valley. On reaching the causeway, they are forced to pull back and establish defensive positions along the ridge. Company D, under Captain John Ryan, remains in good order. After assessing the situation, Schneider decides to remain near Pointe du Hoc with Rudder and assumes direct control of Companies B and E. Major Sullivan receives orders to clear Grand Camp and advance towards Maisy. His force includes Companies A, C, and F, a small headquarters detachment with Ryan, the motorized cannon platoon of 2 guns from the 2nd Ranger Battalion, and a detachment from Company B of the 81st Chemical Battalion armed with 4.2-inch mortars. Artillery liaison officers accompany the group, allowing Sullivan to call for fire support from the 58th Armored Field Artillery Battalion, positioned between Vierville and Saint-Pierre-du-Mont. The 5th Ranger Battalion now operates in 2 separate forces. Schneider remains with his command post and 3 companies, B, D, and E. Companies B and E move to attack the sluice gate area east of Grand Camp Les Bains. Their task is to clear remaining German positions between Grand Camp and Pointe du Hoc. Initially, only B and E companies take part, but D Company later joins them, with Schneider himself, to strengthen the assault and complete the mopping-up operations. A company turns off the beach road, moving away from the sluice gates and passing Crickville Church. The column then turns right towards Maisy and reaches a damaged chateau, where the men spend the night in the hedgerows behind it. Later that morning, Colonel Charles Canham, commanding the 116th Infantry Regiment, orders the Rangers to secure the high ground west of the sluice gates. The task falls to Companies B and E, forming the battalion's advance guard. They move forward towards Grand Camp, believing the German positions ahead to be abandoned. As they pass destroyed bunkers, machine guns open fire from the road and the right flank. The Rangers withdraw under heavy fire, waiting for support from the 116th Infantry Regiment with tanks and artillery. The opposition comes from Grenadier Regiment 914, holding the high ground east of Grand Camp. With support from the 4.2-inch mortars and the 58th Armored Field Artillery Battalion firing from north of Longueville, the 116th Infantry Regiment overcomes the German positions. Records show the artillery fires 123 rounds during the action, clearing the way for the advance westward. At 13:15, HMS Glasgow engages the Maisy Battery, target number 5, Les Perruques. 63 rounds are fired under aerial observation, achieving several direct hits. Later, at 14:55, the cruiser opens fire again, this time under direct observation from her own deck. She fires 58 rounds at German troops moving from Grand Camp towards Pointe du Hoc. The open terrain offers no cover, and the attempted counterattack collapses under the naval bombardment. The shelling forces the Germans to fall back towards the western side of the valley. They have no heavy weapons left at the sluice gate position. 2 75mm guns once placed east of Grand Camp are already destroyed. However, underground bunkers and a 50mm gun covering Grand Camp Harbor remain intact. A nearby farmhouse, marked TPS on wartime maps as a troop concentration point, offers an excellent observation position across the valley. By the time the Rangers arrive, the Germans have abandoned it. There are 2 sluice gates in the area, One lies at the shoreline, while the second, further inland, carries a narrow road across the watercourse. This inland bridge is vital for tanks and support vehicles moving towards Grand Camp. The Germans leave it intact, a costly tactical mistake. By 1600, HMS Glasgow has fired 113 rounds at German positions near Grand Camp. Later in the afternoon, the 3rd Battalion of the 116th Infantry Regiment takes over the attack. Tanks from Company C of the 743rd Tank Battalion cross the bridge first, losing one vehicle to a mine. Companies K and L advance along both sides of the road under covering fire from Browning automatic rifles and machine guns. German emplacements north of the highway, earlier bypassed by the Rangers, are destroyed. Snipers in Grand Camp continue to engage the advancing Americans. Lieutenant Norman Nathan leads a company through the town and captures a pillbox overlooking the beach. The remaining German defenders either flee or surrender. Meanwhile, the 1st Battalion of the 116th Infantry Regiment moves south in a wide flanking maneuver towards Maisy. Supported by Company A of the 743rd Tank Battalion, they advance through Jucoville and then west through lightly defended ground. Heavy naval bombardment has already devastated Maisy, allowing the tanks to suppress scattered resistance. Just west of Maisy, the advance halts before a strong German position blocking the Isigny Road. The defenders use mortars and 88mm guns to shell the rear areas, preventing reinforcement. With tanks running low on fuel, the American advance stops for the night. At Grand Camp, the 3rd Battalion faces fierce resistance from entrenched German positions overlooking the town. Artillery and tank fire fail to dislodge them. In the chaos, Technical Sergeant Frank Perruques advances alone under heavy fire. He climbs the slope, discovers an enemy trench, and attacks it, single-handed, with grenades and bayonet. He kills 8 Germans, captures 3, and forces 32 more to surrender. His courage opens the way for the battalion to capture the position. As the Americans advance through Grand Camp, sniper fire erupts from the church. Believing it to house a German observation post, Lieutenant Coit Coker of the U.S. Navy Shore Fire Control Party requests permission from Colonel Canham to fire on it. Canham agrees. Coker rides forward on a Sherman tank and directs naval fire on the church. About 16 rounds strike the target, followed by 2 rapid-fire barrages totaling 64 rounds that sweep the waterfront. Coker then orders 2 minutes of unobserved rapid fire on Maisy, adding another 64 rounds to the bombardment. When he returns, he discovers that Captain Wawruska of the 5th Rangers has independently called for the same fire mission. Both are executed by the destroyer USS Harding under the call sign RAH. An hour later, Harding fires again at a water tower in Grand Camp used by German observers. 45 rounds hit near the target but fail to destroy it. Concealed by trees and nearby buildings, the tower remains in use for some time. Major Sullivan, Captain Rahn, and a small headquarters detachment move into Grand Camp with the 1st Battalion, 116th Infantry Regiment. They take part in close quarters fighting, clearing the southern edge of the town. Small groups advance 2 by 2 along both sides of the street, forcing doors open with bayonets and searching every floor. They find frightened French civilians hiding in their homes, but few remaining German troops. By this point, the 1st Battalion and elements of the Rangers turn left towards Maisy. They face renewed artillery and machine gun fire. Colonel Canham and Lieutenant Coker coordinate naval support once more. At 14:33, the USS Harding fires 160 rounds in 1 hour, shaking German morale, though causing limited damage. A further mission follows at 14:40, with Harding firing 12 rounds every 5 minutes for an hour on Maisy to disrupt German movements and suppress defenses. In total, 73 rounds strike the village. As the advance continues, one ranger fires a bazooka into an upstairs window behind a tobacconist's shop, suspecting a sniper. The rocket passes through without exploding. Believing the building empty, the men move on. Near Maisy, the rangers halt about 800 meters northeast of the village and dig in for the night. Supply sections deliver K rations, a welcome relief from the compressed bars many have lived on. For most, it is the first proper meal in days. Lieutenant Colonel Metcalf orders a halt and positions his units for the night. Sullivan briefs his company commanders and assigns defensive sectors. Company F guards the left flank. Company C covers the right, and the 4.2-inch mortars, along with Rain's group, form the rear. Battalion headquarters and half-tracks hold the center. Each company covers about 90 meters of frontage, with equal spacing between them. Company strength is now below 60 men. The battalion occupies a compact defensive perimeter of roughly 270 by 135 meters. The men dig in and prepare for a night counterattack. Nearby, D Company reaches Maisy and joins E Company, advancing from Crickville past the ruined church, once used as a German observation post. Colonel Schneider orders the attack on Maisy to begin. D Company halts at the ruins of the Distors Chateau on the eastern edge of town, once held by German anti-aircraft crews. The chateau is shattered, and 3 destroyed guns lie in the field beside it. The ground is cratered and unsafe. As darkness falls, scattered German survivors appear, but D Company establishes a perimeter and prepares for counterattack. The Rangers move through farm buildings and barns recently abandoned by the enemy. Each structure is searched carefully. Discarded uniforms, burnt vehicles, and empty positions mark the German retreat. Several emplacements still contain dead soldiers. The town itself is almost obliterated. Only one German machine gun nest in the church steeple remains active. It is silenced with Browning automatic rifles and rifle grenades. At the crossroads, 2 German guns fire salvos, cutting off Lieutenant Coker and 40 men. They move along a dirt track under artillery fire and narrowly avoid casualties. A lone German attempts to lure them into the open, but is killed instantly. Deciding they are too exposed, Coker leads his men back to the main force near Maisy. German artillery then resumes shelling from Isigny and the south, forcing the Rangers to scatter. Re-establishing radio contact, Coker fails to reach USS Harding or Texas. Instead, he connects with HMS Bellona, a British cruiser, which relays his requests for counter-battery fire near Osmanville and Isigny. Under heavy shelling, Coker commends Private Henson for remaining by his side while others seek cover. The group eventually rejoins the battalion, now dug in along abandoned German trenches on Maisy's southern edge. HMS Bellona signals that she is now assigned to support the Rangers, while USS Texas targets Isigny. Reflecting later, Coker concludes that without the naval bombardment on Maisy, the 1st Battalion of the 116th Infantry Regiment would have suffered far heavier losses. The shelling disrupts enemy positions, many already evacuated only hours before. Maisy is almost empty when the Rangers arrive. Other Ranger companies begin clearing the ruined village. Signs of a rushed German withdrawal are everywhere. For many, this is the first chance to rest or eat properly in 3 days. Company F spends the night of the 8th of June in a barn at Gerard Modelon's farm, surrounded by piles of enemy equipment. The men move cautiously, wary of hidden booby traps. Among the debris, they find devices designed to turn artillery shells into roadside explosives by replacing their fuses. Once reformed at Pointe du Hoc, the 2nd Ranger Battalion receives new orders. Their task is to capture the fortified coastal town of Grand-Camp-les-Bains, only a few kilometers west of Pointe du Hoc. Before moving out, a small patrol is sent to locate the 5th Ranger Battalion, which is preparing its own assault on the town. The patrol completes its mission and returns safely to the battalion, now assembled on the coastal road. Just before departure from the point at 1600, a patrol from Company F discovers a German machine gun, still active in a treetop. The Rangers destroy it. Soon after, the battalion advances in scattered columns, supported by the tanks of the 743rd Tank Battalion rumbling alongside. Snipers and machine gun nests delay progress, but each is eliminated with precision and determination. The Rangers enter Grand Camp in strength. There, they link up with the remainder of the 5th Ranger Battalion already engaged in the assault. The 5th takes the lead, storming the town in a sharp and decisive action. The Germans are overwhelmed and routed. Resistance collapses quickly. The Rangers secure prisoners, weapons, and valuable supplies. Casualties remain light compared to the ground gained. With Grand Camp secured, the 2nd Ranger Battalion withdraws into reserve. Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder orders the men into bivouac near Ogay while the clearing of the town continues. At 1700, the battalion moves on foot to a second bivouac area near the sluice gate. Shortly afterwards, the supply vehicles arrive. Rations, water, ammunition, and bedrolls are distributed. The men eat, clean their weapons, and prepare defensive positions. Rest is organized under the buddy system, with each section providing rotating sentries for security. At 2110, HMS Glasgow opens fire on a suspected German battery south of the Ranger position. The site may have been responsible for earlier incoming fire. After 18 rounds, aerial observers report no visible guns, but several direct hits on a farmhouse. German troops are seen running clear, though the final results remain uncertain. The night passes quietly for the Rangers. Enemy aircraft raid the beaches and naval anchorage, but the reserve camp remains untouched. The men sleep soundly under the stars. By dawn, they wake refreshed and ready for the next phase of the campaign. At 1 o'clock on June 9th, 1944, Captain Coit Coker requests HMS Bellona to fire on target number 16, about 1,400 meters southwest of the Ranger position. The target is believed to contain German mobile artillery. The cruiser delivers a sound-ranging fire mission of 26 rounds. To avoid firing over friendly troops, Bellona shifts northeast of the target before opening fire. As dawn breaks, Major Richard Sullivan briefs his men for the coming assault. It is just before 8 o'clock. The weather has changed completely. The sky is clear, the air calm, and the sun bright. Visibility is excellent. The sudden stillness surprises the Rangers. While the clear light improves coordination, it also exposes their movements. The Germans occupy long-prepared defensive works, and the Rangers must attack across open fields in full daylight. Major Sullivan deploys his forces for battle. Company C, supported by elements of the 116th Infantry Regiment and 2 half-tracks from the 2nd Ranger Battalion, moves south along the Grand Camp Isigny Road. Most of the 116th continue towards Isigny, leaving the Rangers to deal with the German batteries to the right of the road. The plan is to encircle and destroy the Maisy battery at Les Perruques, while creating the illusion of bypassing it. In coordination with other units, Sullivan intends to strike from the south and southeast, cutting off any withdrawal routes. At the same time, Companies A and F will attack from the north along the seaward side. Company F positions itself in hedgerows and sunken lanes north and northeast of Les Perruques. Their task is to pin down the defenders with small arms fire. Once the main assault begins, they will move along the field parallel to the Grand Camp Isigny Road, then turn right into the position. The remainder of F Company will advance directly southwest from the sunken lane into the center of the battery. Company A forms beside F, turning off the Isigny Road into a sunken lane, running parallel to it between Les Perruques and La Martinière, now known as the Route des Perruques. The men creep dangerously close, less than 275 meters from the German gun positions above, but remain hidden in the hollow road. Their task is to reach the area in front of La Martinière, wait for the opening gunfire, then assault uphill and capture the site. Major Sullivan personally leads Company C, supported by elements of D Company and several headquarters staff. They move down the Isigny Road, past Les Perruques, and are soon pinned by heavy machine gun fire from the battery. Sullivan orders the two half-tracks to swing right and attack the enemy from the rear. Standing atop one of the vehicles, he directs the engagement under fire. Nearby, C and F Company mortar teams set up along the road about 365 meters from the target. They had moved beyond Les Perruques towards Isigny, then turned back to achieve proper range and accuracy while staying outside German effective fire. The 58th Armored Field Artillery Battalion and the 81st Chemical Mortar Battalion provide critical fire support. That morning, Company B of the 81st is attached to assist the 5th Ranger Battalion in the assault. Each company fields 12 4.2-inch mortars capable of producing an intense barrage within minutes. The 81st later earns the nickname the Rangers Artillery for its close coordination with Ranger units throughout Europe. Before the attack begins, the 58th Armored Field Artillery Battalion fires 123 rounds into the Maisy positions. The 81st Chemical Mortar Battalion adds its fire, joined by the two 75mm guns mounted on the 2nd Ranger Battalion's half-tracks and four 81mm mortars placed to the rear. Naval bombardment ceases to prevent friendly fire as the Rangers prepare to go in. At close range, the supporting fire is devastating. The heavy shells drive the German garrison underground, pinning them while the Rangers advance. Days of naval, artillery, and mortar bombardment have already crippled the defenders. Observation posts are destroyed one by one. Casualties mount. Cut off from neighboring units, the garrison receives no orders or reinforcement. Around the southern edge of the Maisy position lies a mine belt about 23 meters wide. The Rangers have no knowledge of it. They cannot wait for engineer support. Reports also warn of double bands of mines southwest of Maisy, some believed to be electrified. During the approach march, Major John Rahn moves at the rear of the column with a small headquarters detachment. The Rangers pass through hedgerows and fields under sporadic long-range machine gun fire from the right flank. The Germans fire from too far away. The tracer rounds burn out before reaching the column. Because of the extensive minefields, Major Sullivan chooses to attack in column formation. Company A leads, followed by Company C, with Company F in reserve. Companies A and F advance along a dirt road north of gridline 92. The ground is marshy, cut by ditches and soft mud. In this swampy terrain, the Rangers find the bodies of American paratroopers dropped far from their intended zones. Some have drowned in the flooded fields, others hang lifeless from trees, shot as they landed. Reaching a point opposite the Maisy batteries north of La Martinière and Les Perruques, the force wheels left. Company A moves to assault La Martinière, while Company F advances on Les Perruques. The coordinated attack on the Maisy gun positions is ready to begin. Meanwhile, Company C, supported by the 2nd Ranger Battalion's cannon platoon, moves directly south from Maisy, then turns right to strike Les Perruques from the southeast. Major Sullivan directs the battle from one of the accompanying half-tracks. Major Sullivan's group, supported by elements of E Company, moves into the open fields after a short mortar bombardment from the 4 tubes of Company C. Almost immediately, German small arms fire erupts from hidden trenches ahead. The direction of fire is unclear. Well-camouflaged machine guns open up from several low positions, sweeping the ground with accurate bursts. The Rangers soon realize the rear fields are mined, as are the nearby paddocks. Despite this, they press forward. Major Sullivan dismounts from his half-track and advances on foot among his men. a mine explodes close by, triggered by another ranger. The blast wounds Sullivan lightly. Refusing evacuation, he continues to lead the assault, shifting his line of advance slightly to the left. Each company now fights independently. The men can hear the sounds of battle from other sectors, but cannot see their comrades. Every unit focuses on its own section of the German battery. Sullivan's group reaches the southern edge of the Les Perruques battery and enters the German trench system. One of the supporting half-tracks engages a Type 6 22 personnel bunker with its 75mm gun. The weapon is designed for direct fire and demands a clear line of sight. To achieve this, the crew drives the vehicle straight towards the enemy, firing as they advance. A German machine gun post on top of the 622 bunker pins the Rangers down at close range. The position is a Perruque, an open-topped concrete pit where the gunner can raise his weapon to fire, then drop back below cover. Armed with an MG-34 or MG-42, these positions are deadly at short range. Lieutenant Conway Epperson, commanding one of the 2nd Ranger Battalion's half-tracks, orders his driver forward. The vehicle advances directly at the bunker, firing its 75mm gun as it moves. Rangers follow close behind, using the half-track as cover. German bullets ricochet off the armor while the gun fires repeatedly, hammering the bunker at point-blank range. After 7 direct hits, the Perruque falls silent. The Rangers rush forward, clearing the position after several German machine gunners are killed in succession. All around, the attackers push through the trenches, moving from one section to the next. The defense begins to collapse. Many Germans of the Heerkusten Artillery Abteilung 315, attached to the 9th Battery, Artillery Regiment 1716, surrender. A few refuse to yield and take their own lives. As the fight continues, the Rangers face new challenges. The trench network is dense and confusing, a maze of narrow, dark passages. Some sections are covered with camouflage netting or have collapsed under bombardment, entombing defenders inside. In other places, the entrances are so small that German troops slip away unseen into underground shelters, sealing themselves behind steel doors. The fighting is chaotic and uneven. Some Germans fire a few rounds before vanishing. Others surrender without resistance. The larger bunkers have blast doors that cannot be breached without explosives. The half-tracks cannot move deeper into the position. Their flanks and rear are too exposed. The situation mirrors Pointe du Hoc, where defenders had reappeared from hidden tunnels after being bypassed. Progress through the trench maze is slow and dangerous. Each turn hides another threat, either surrendering troops, concealed bunkers, or sudden bursts of fire from positions still held by the enemy. At the center of Les Perruques stands a massive Type 502 command bunker. Its concrete walls are over 3 meters thick. A large naval periscope rises through the roof, allowing the officers inside to observe the battlefield and direct the defense. From here, the German staff have an unbroken view of the advancing Rangers and their supporting half-tracks. Nearby, the Type 6 22 personnel shelters remain sealed behind heavy steel doors. Each has an internal gun mount capable of firing upward through the entrance at attackers approaching from outside. These defenses are difficult to overcome. Meanwhile, Company F of the 5th Ranger Battalion crosses the road and enters the German trench system through the tunnels along the Route des Perruques. Fierce close-quarter fighting follows as they engage defenders at point-blank range. Moving methodically through the network, they overrun a gun emplacement and its nearby bunkers. F Company pushes into the shattered remains of the Regelbau 502 command bunker. The concussion has killed the officers inside. Their radios still crackle with incoming messages. Rangers of the 2nd Ranger Battalion find a captured Polish conscript among the prisoners. Using him as an interpreter, they attempt to persuade nearby defenders to surrender. When one SS officer refuses, the Rangers tie two satchel charges together and detonate them at the doorway. The explosion rips the heavy steel doors from their hinges and blows them aside. The first artillery gun they encounter is destroyed. Its concrete base is split by an earlier explosion, and the weapon lies overturned. The camouflage netting above is shredded, and ammunition boxes and debris litter the ground. Several other guns are buried beneath rubble from days of bombardment. Later, German reports claim that 3 pieces are repaired, but their use is limited. The barrels cannot depress low enough to engage the Rangers moving below their line of fire. The defenders rely solely on small arms weapons. For Company F, progress through the trench network is slow and hazardous. Collapsed walls and wreckage block many sections. Dead German soldiers lie half buried in the mud, and mines, weapons, and ammunition are scattered everywhere. Each step forward brings new danger. The position is a twisted maze of destruction. Meanwhile, Major Sullivan's Southern Force captures several trenches and gun emplacements. The half-tracks under Lieutenant Epperson destroy the main rear-facing machine gun position, allowing the infantry to push through wire and minefields into the trench system. Realizing the danger of leaving his vehicles stationary under fire, Sullivan orders Epperson to move across the fields towards the rear of La Martinière, where Company A remains heavily engaged. While Major Sullivan's mixed force of Companies C, D, and E attacks Les Perruques from the rear, Company A advances towards the La Martinière battery. They move through the sunken lane to the north, directly beneath the German guns positioned on the ridge above. At this stage of the campaign, Company A of the 5th Ranger Battalion numbers only about 45 men. The rest have been lost during the Omaha beach landings 3 days earlier. The survivors, exhausted but resolute, press forward to continue their role in the attack on La Martinière. Attempting to turn left into a flat field, the Rangers are stopped by an unexpected obstacle. The drainage ditches beside the road are flooded, some nearly 2.5 meters deep. Several men try to cross at the deepest point and fall in. Under heavy fire from the high ground, their comrades haul them out one by one. During the advance through the waterlogged ground, Ranger John Bellows accidentally triggers a mine. The explosion wounds Jim Sullivan and Bob Battis, throwing them into the mud. Battis suffers a severe head wound, while Sullivan is hit in the arm, shoulder, and back. The two lie side by side in the flooded field, partially shielded by a hedge, but still under fire. The ground is mined and exposed, yet fellow Rangers attempt to reach them. Lieutenant Parker orders Jack Burke, Company A's medical orderly, to recover the wounded. Burke hesitates briefly. It seems impossible for one man to pull 2 casualties to safety under fire, but he goes anyway. Captain Petrick, the battalion medical officer, confirms the order. Browning automatic rifle gunner Joe Vieras joins Burke to provide covering fire. As Burke descends the slope, the Germans open fire from a wooded area to the left. Bullets strike the mud and water around him. Vieras fires bursts from his BAR, suppressing the enemy. Burke reaches the 2 wounded men and works quickly, spreading sulfur powder from his kit and bandaging them as best he can. Both are soaked, lying in ankle-deep slush. He leaves everything except their rifles behind and drags them to safety. Back at the top, Parker tells him he will recommend him for the Silver Star, though the award is never processed. The defenders have already spotted the advancing Rangers. From their elevated positions, they fire rifles, machine guns, and mortars at the open ground. Company A moves quickly along the lane, advancing 50 to 60 meters before finding a shallow crossing. The men wade through ankle-deep water, then break into a run across open fields. Mud and water pull at their legs as they sprint the first 100 meters under heavy fire. Jack Burke and a small team set up a 60mm mortar and begin firing blindly uphill to keep the defenders' heads down. Others open fire with Browning automatic rifles and .30 caliber machine guns. The Rangers reach the German wire, which proves light and ineffective. The defenders have relied mainly on minefields, a fatal misjudgment. The first position captured is a mortar pit, marked with range calibrations on its inner wall. These preset ranges show that had the Rangers remained in the open, at the base of the slope, they would have been easy targets. Their rapid advance leaves the German gunners unable to adjust. Abandoning their mortars, they seize rifles and fight at close range. The Rangers maintain momentum. Training and instinct drive them forward. There is no cover, no seawall, and no bluff, only open ground. Every step exposes them to enemy fire, yet they keep moving, pressing into the Martinière position. At one point, Lieutenant Ace Parker orders bayonets fixed. The open ground ahead is too wide for a direct assault, so he splits the men into smaller assault teams. The fighting becomes brutal and intimate. One German is killed instantly by an explosion. Another is finished with a bayonet. The Rangers push through deep, intersecting trenches, leading to a gun pit about 6 to 9 meters underground. Inside are long-barreled field guns in well-constructed emplacements. Resistance is fierce, but the Rangers fight through it. German resistance begins to break. A Polish gunner steps forward and surrenders. Others follow. Suddenly, 2 SS officers fire into their own ranks, killing one man and wounding another. The fragile surrender collapses and fighting resumes at point-blank range. At Les Perruques, Major Sullivan recognizes the danger of leaving his vehicles exposed. He orders Lieutenant Epperson to move across the open fields towards the rear of La Martinière, where A Company is still engaged. Epperson's 2 half-tracks wheel left across open ground in front of Fouche's farm, firing as they go. Rangers from the 2nd Ranger Battalion follow close behind. The barbed wire offers little resistance. The same field had been the landing site for several American paratroopers captured 3 days earlier. At La Martinière, the German battery commander faces disaster. Ranger infantry attack from the front and flanks, while Epperson's armor closes from the rear. He orders his 3 remaining 10.5-centimeter guns turned to face the threat. The crews haul the wheeled guns out of their casemates and open fire across the fields. German shells burst around the advancing Rangers. The half-tracks return fire with their 75-millimeter guns moving constantly to avoid hits. Supporting infantry fire bazookas, Browning automatics, and M1 rifles at the casemates, damaging the concrete and wounding exposed gunners. One gun is destroyed outright. Another ceases firing when its ammunition runs out. The third is silenced after its crew is killed. Still, many German infantrymen continue to fight. SS discipline keeps them in position, unaware that they are surrounded. Days of bombardment have shattered the trenches and buried equipment. Communication has failed. Morale collapses. Some conscripts surrender when they see the Rangers closing in, risking execution by the SS to survive. The German position is not yet fully subdued. Machine guns in the tree line to the west open flanking fire, forcing the Rangers to drop into the trenches. Company A continues the attack from cover, advancing meter by meter through the shattered defenses. Some Rangers use tunnels leading from the forward mortar pits into the rear trench system. The Germans, aware of their presence, wait in ambush. At each turn, Rangers throw grenades before moving on. They cannot stop to search every chamber. When a doorway is blocked or dark, they throw a grenade inside and move forward. Several Germans feign death and then attack from behind once the Rangers pass. Company A applies the same rule they used at Vierville and on Omaha Beach. Every fallen enemy is checked again. It is a grim but necessary precaution learned through hard experience. With infantry advancing beside the half-tracks and 75-millimeter guns firing at close range, the La Martinière position begins to collapse. The combined assault from the front and rear traps the defenders. Some continue to fight from within their bunkers until the final moments, but the outcome is inevitable. The battle lasts roughly 5 hours from the initial assault. The defenders are regular Wehrmacht artillerymen, not auxiliaries, and they fight stubbornly. Yet the Rangers close in, clearing trench after trench in brutal, methodical fighting. By the end, they capture the hospital area and all 5 French-made 155mm howitzers buried deep in reinforced concrete shelters. These guns, if intact, could have fired on both Omaha and Utah beaches. After hours of combat, the entire Martinière battery falls. Inside the position, the Rangers find the German payroll for the coastal sector, bundles of notes stacked inside the command building. The total is between 3 and 4 million francs. It is payday for the 716th Infantry Division, delayed by the invasion. The men throw the money into the air, laughing and celebrating their victory. Many keep small amounts as souvenirs, believing the notes worthless. Later, they realize the currency matches that issued in Allied escape kits, valid French francs printed by the Allies for liberated areas. Those who still have some exchange it later at finance offices for money orders to send home. For a brief moment, the discovery becomes a source of humor within the 5th Ranger Battalion. The men use the francs for poker games, where no-limit rules favor whoever holds the most cash. Eventually, military police from the 29th Infantry Division collect the remaining funds along with prisoners of war. After the battle, Captain Petrick orders a captured German doctor to assist in treating the wounded. The German hospital and dispensary within the Maisy complex are largely intact. Under supervision, the captured medical staff treat both Ranger and German casualties alike. Most cooperate willingly, grateful that the fighting is over. The wounded from both sides are evacuated together. They are carried to a 2nd Ranger Battalion half-track positioned near the captured pillbox, then transported to a medical clearance center before being moved to Great Britain. The battle for the Maisy batteries is over. The Rangers have seized a heavily fortified German artillery complex through determination, training, and sheer endurance. After years of preparation and 3 days of heavy bombardment, the Maisy battery finally falls under the complete control of the United States 5th Ranger Battalion. By the afternoon, the Rangers have secured the entire position. By this stage, all the anti-aircraft emplacements at both Maisy batteries are destroyed. These guns, once capable of doubling as ground defense weapons, are now useless. Continuous naval and aerial bombardment has reduced the open field positions to rubble, yet the site remains well stocked. Ammunition deliveries before the invasion had been regular, and the intermittent bombardment left large reserves untouched. As a result, the German gunners are still able to fire at Allied naval forces and the advancing Rangers on the 9th of June 1944, despite the devastation around them. A post-battle naval assessment records that the captured ammunition bunkers at Maisy contain more than 180 tons of munitions. 3 of the Martinière guns remain operational at the time of capture. A 4th weapon, still awaiting completion of its concrete shelter and left in the open, is destroyed by naval fire on the 6th of June. The fall of Maisy removes a major threat to the Allied beachhead. After resting and reorganizing, Major Sullivan's task force advances towards Osmanville. Captain John Reville and Company F are detached with the half-tracks and sent back to Vierville to help clear the rear areas of the beachhead. Shortly afterwards, the rest of the force marches to the Osmanville bivouac, joining the main battalion by 2000 hours. At 2100 hours, a 3-man patrol from Company E moves out to reconnoiter the light engineer bridge across the River Vire. They complete their mission and return safely at midnight. By the end of the 4th day, the 5th Ranger Battalion records roughly 20 Germans killed, 130 taken prisoner, and 18 Rangers wounded. For the 2nd Ranger Battalion, June 9th 1944, is quiet. In the mid-afternoon, it moves out on foot, passing through Grand Camp and continuing towards Osmanville. The column covers about 13 kilometers in steady formation. A misty rain falls for most of the journey, but clears as the unit reaches its bivouac near Osmanville. A patrol is dispatched to make contact with the 116th Infantry Regiment on the left flank, but the attempt fails. Standard night security measures are maintained throughout. At 6 a.m. on June 10, 1944, Captain Heffelfinger receives orders to take companies C, D, and F and clear any remaining resistance on the left flank. The detachment is also to collect German prisoners. At 9 o'clock, the 5th Ranger Battalion reverts to the control of 5th Corps. The force begins its advance at Jeffosse-Fontenay, moving north towards the coast. They meet little opposition. By 15:30, they return, having captured around 200 prisoners. Mines in the area cause 3 additional Ranger casualties. Elsewhere, patrols operating near the 5th Ranger Battalion's sector capture about 35 Germans during the day. By evening, the total results of the day are recorded: 235 prisoners taken, with 10 Rangers listed as casualties. Later, at 23:30, 5th Corps issues new orders. The battalion is to move by truck to Bois du Molay. During the night march, Company A suffers further losses. Private First Class William M. Gartner is lightly wounded, while Technician 5th Grade Dana W. Wallace and Private First Class George F. Chiatello are killed in action. At 2 o'clock, the battalion arrives at its destination. Outposts and interior guards are established immediately. At 10 o'clock the following morning, re-equipment and shortage lists are completed and submitted. Companies A, B, and C of the 2nd Ranger Battalion begin operations on June 10, 1944 at 8 o'clock. Patrols move out to search their assigned sectors, covering the ground from Osmanville to the coast and the main coastal road. No enemy contact is made, though clear signs show that German troops have only recently withdrawn. Abandoned weapons, empty ammunition boxes, and scattered documents mark their hasty retreat. Captured intelligence material is forwarded to the 29th Infantry Division for analysis. All patrols return safely, without incident. With these final operations, the first phase of Ranger combat in Normandy draws to a close. The battalions have achieved their objectives, but at a heavy cost. In 5 days of continuous fighting, the 5th Ranger Battalion loses 23 men killed, 89 wounded, and 2 missing. During the same period, the battalion captures approximately 850 prisoners and kills an estimated 350 German soldiers. By the close of the first 5 days of action in Normandy, the 2nd Ranger Battalion has also suffered severe losses. 77 men are killed in action, around 50 at Pointe du Hoc, and a further 27 during the Omaha Beach assault and later engagements. 152 Rangers are wounded, their injuries ranging from minor to critical. 38 are listed as missing in action. This number includes men killed but not immediately recovered, as well as those captured by the enemy. The total number of Rangers taken prisoner remains uncertain. Contemporary reports suggest that only a small number are captured, mostly during the night battle at Pointe du Hoc. Those confirmed as prisoners are later deducted from the missing list. By the end of the war, most have been repatriated or officially accounted for. German casualties directly inflicted by the 2nd Ranger Battalion are difficult to confirm. Conservative estimates place the total between 50 and 100 killed, with 40 to 50 taken prisoner. Exact figures are uncertain, due to the fragmented nature of the engagements and incomplete battlefield reports. At Pointe du Hoc alone, official tallies record over 50 Germans killed and 40 captured. These are in addition to the broader losses suffered by enemy forces in the 5th Corps sector, where the Rangers fight closely alongside infantry and armor. Between 6 and 10. June 1944, 33 decorations for gallantry are awarded to the Rangers and their supporting personnel. 24 Distinguished Service Crosses are presented for extraordinary heroism. 8 Silver Stars are awarded for gallantry in action, recognizing both Rangers and naval officers who provided essential support. 1 Navy Cross is awarded to a naval officer attached to the 2nd Ranger Battalion for directing critical gunfire support. These honors reflect the courage, endurance, and sacrifice of the Rangers during the assaults on Omaha Beach, Pointe du Hoc, and Maisy. 5 days of relentless combat that secure a vital sector of the Normandy front. And that concludes today's episode. With this episode, we bring to a close our series on the Provisional Ranger Force of D-Day, the 2nd and 5th Ranger Battalions whose courage and determination helped secure the Allied foothold in Normandy. From their first days of training in Britain to the chaos of the landings, we have followed the journey of Forces A, B, and C, the men who scaled the cliffs, broke open the beaches, and fought across the Norman countryside. At Pointe du Hoc, Colonel James Rudder's Rangers of Force A achieved the impossible. They climb the 30-meter cliffs under heavy fire, destroy the hidden German guns, and hold their exposed position for 2 days against repeated counterattacks. At Vierville, Force B storms the western flank of Omaha Beach, attacking Widerstands Nest 73 and 74, with it opening the way for the 116th Regimental Combat Team to move inland. Force C, the largest of the 3, lands on Dog White Beach after the signal from Pointe du Hoc fails to appear. Under Colonel Max Schneider and Major Sullivan, the Rangers turn confusion into progress, advancing beside the 116th Infantry Regiment through Saint-Pierre-du-Mont and Grand Camp, linking up with the isolated Rangers at the point. Fewer than half of the Rangers who land on D-Day remain unhurt, yet through courage, initiative, and a refusal to yield, they transform near disaster into victory. Their actions help secure the beachhead that will ultimately lead to the liberation of Europe. The bonus episode extends their story beyond D-Day. It follows the assault on the Maisy Battery on June 9, 1944, where the 5th Ranger Battalion, supported by elements of the 2nd Ranger Battalion, attacks the twin gun sites at Les Perruques and La Martinière. After 5 hours of fierce fighting through minefields, trenches, and bunkers, the Rangers capture the entire complex, seize more than 180 tons of ammunition, and take hundreds of prisoners. The capture of Maisy eliminates one of the last major artillery threats to the Allied invasion front. Together, these 6 episodes tell the complete story of the Provisional Ranger Force in Normandy, from the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc to the fortified batteries of Maisy. They remind us that the fate of entire campaigns often rested on the courage of small, determined groups. Men who led from the front, struck hard, and held fast in the face of impossible odds. Through their sacrifice, the Rangers helped shape the course of history. To explore more, including photographs, maps, original documents, and the full list of sources behind this series, visit www.worldwar2-sof.com. Among the most valuable works that informed our research are the cover-up at Omaha Beach, the Maisy Battery, and the U.S. Rangers by historian Gary Stern, and D-Day cover-up at Pointe du Hoc, the history of the 2nd and 5th U.S. Army Rangers, 1st May to 10th June 1944, also researched and written by Stern. We also drew extensively from Smashing Hitler's Guns, The Rangers at Pointe du Hoc, D-Day 1944, by military historian Stephen J. Zaloga. Together, these studies offer both the broad context and the fine operational detail behind the Rangers' role in Normandy. Along with numerous archival sources, they have guided and shaped the narrative of this episode. These stories remind us that the fate of major campaigns often rested on the actions of small, determined groups, elite units that led from the front, struck hard, and held firm in the face of overwhelming odds. Thank you for listening to the Special Forces in World War II podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Your support helps us continue to share more stories of courage, ingenuity, and the unsung heroes of the war. Be sure to join us next time as we uncover another remarkable operation that helped shape the course of history. Until then, keep your wits sharp, your courage steady, and remember, sometimes the greatest victories come from the unlikeliest of places. I'm your host, Michael Wires, signing off. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.